Hi, hi. Welcome back to another Knowing You show. I'm Tiffany Cano. Today's guest is Joyce Wheeler from Heavenly Bodies. And before we get started with that, let's start with our commercial. Welcome, welcome, Joyce. So, just to give you a little background, Joyce has been living a holistic lifestyle since 2012. Her journey began in 2009 when her husband became sick and he was told that he'd never work again. So, with the help of a friend who owned a health store, he did get better, and they've been on this journey together. The research that was done that led them to learn just how toxic our world really is. And I want to talk about that in a minute. But let me finish this part. So it was at that point that they decided that in order to live a healthy life, they had to take their health into their own hands and make lifestyle changes. This has led Joyce to start teaching individuals how to maximize their health for a better quality of life holistically through speaking, teaching, and with her products. So, welcome, Joyce. Thank
Thank
you.
you, Tiffany.
Yeah. So, um, I I was just reading yesterday, I believe, about the forever chemicals and how toxic those are, and how they're in so many food items and food packaging and all of these things. And I wanted to cringe and like scream and like, why? All at the same time. So is that what you mean by toxins? I mean, one of the many options.
Yeah, that's just one of them. And it's just not our food, it's our cleaning products and our beauty care products, our personal hygiene products, even the what we're cooking with, too, is also toxic. Um,
Um,
the air,
Joyce, can you move your mic a little further from your mouth? It's a little. Okay,
is
go
it
ahead.
better? Okay.
Yeah.
The air, the water, it's everything. It's just we are bombarded by a cascade of toxins, many of which, the ones that are like outside, stay within the ground for a very long period of time. So
Mm.
it's just not the food. We have, if we want to be healthy, we have a lot of work to do. It took us 2 years to get to where we are today.
Wow. And talk to me about what, if you don't mind sharing, about your husband and what was he sick with? How did he recover? Give us a little more insight into that.
Sure, sure. It was back in 2009. He's a truck driver, and he was feeling sick. He went to the doctor. They said he had a reoccurring mono, and that he needed to come off the road for a month until he got better. Well, he wasn't getting better; he was getting worse. And then it got to the point to where he was sleeping 16 hours a day. Another trip to the doctor. Doctor says, "You have chronic fatigue syndrome." So over time, he's not getting better. He's getting worse. At one point, the doctor had told him that you might as well file for disability because you're never going to work again. On a fluke, he was watching TV and landed up watching this talk show where there was a comedian sharing his battle with mercury poisoning from eating sushi for 20 years. And then when he started describing his symptoms, my husband said, "That's me." So then
Uh-huh.
he started doing research to find out where the mercury was coming from. Well, being a truck driver, he would bring food with him, and one of the foods he brought was tuna, which does have a high mercury content. But
Hmm.
he, whatever, for whatever reason, he didn't believe that that was the cause. So further research led to the amalgam fillings in his mouth, the silver ones. They're
Yes.
50, they're 50% mercury, and he had 10 of them in his mouth. Went back to the doctor, told this doctor, I believe I have mercury poisoning, and the doctor literally laughed at him. So it just so happened he had a childhood friend that had a health store, and she put him on a protocol to help remove the toxins from his body. Well, then he was improving, he was getting better,
Mm-hmm.
but he had the fillings removed, and that helped a whole lot. Well, during his research, he found out that the American Dental Association had a gag order on the dentist where they were not allowed to tell their patients that the mercury fillings were toxic or they could lose their license. When
Really?
we,
Hmm.
yeah,
Was
when
that
we,
nationwide or just in your area?
nationwide.
Okay.
So when we found this out, we went, okay, well, what else aren't they telling us? What else don't we know?
Mm-hmm.
And Pandora's box just flew open, and we just, the research just realized how toxic our world really was. And that's where we were just like, you know what? If we want to stay healthy and have the best quality of life that we can, then we have to figure out how to change our lifestyle
Mm-hmm.
and get healthier. And we switched out our food for organic, and we did that slowly. It wasn't like everything just went in the garbage and we brought in organic. So we started by replacing like common things that we used on a regular basis.
Mm-hmm.
So that started first, and then from there we replace our seasonings, like 1 or 2 seasonings per month. So it was just baby steps, little by little. And then of course we found out about the cleaning products, so we had to deal with that. And then I was doing research about the beauty care industry. And
Mm-hmm.
I went, when I found out that they use approximately 10,800 chemicals in their
Ew.
products. Out of that, approximately 8,000 are toxic. I found out that they don't have to, the beauty care industry does not have to put all the ingredients on their label because it's a formula. And the word
Mm-hmm.
fragrance can stand for anything, and fragrance usually is a combination of different chemicals. Some maybe not harmful, others are harmful. But then you have, when you put certain ones together, they become harmful.
Mm-hmm.
So when I found this out, I couldn't trust anybody. And again, they don't have to list everything. So how do I know what's really in there and really what's not in there? And even for the natural or the organic, it was like I couldn't trust them. And then I found out that anything that we put onto our body, the skin is the largest organ on the body. So anything that we put on our body goes into our bloodstream, which causes various problems. Like it disrupts our hormones, our nervous system. It can contribute to thyroid issues, to allergies, just, a host of problems.
Mm-hmm.
So I went, you know what, I'm going to start formulating my own products. And that's what I started doing. Well, who else could I trust?
Yeah.
At least
Do
I
you,
knew what was going in.
do you use a lot of essential oils? Like for me, I love therapeutic grade doTERRA oils, and I like using that on my skin, you know.
Yeah.
What do you
In my
mean by
in my
formulating?
formulating, taking ingredients and put them together to create it, kind of like being a mad
Yeah, but what
scientist.
kind of ingredients?
Herbs, carrier oils, butters.
Mm-hmm.
So, and now, of course, everything that I get is organic. I do business with not even a handful of people. There's maybe 3 companies that I totally trust, and I looked at their background to make it. It's not just a matter of being organic; it's a matter of being ethical.
Yes.
You know that you're not, if it's forged, then are they leaving behind something behind so that it continues to grow and to thrive? We
Mm-hmm.
hear a lot about the endangered animals, but nobody talks about the endangered plants. And there are some plants that are on the endangered list. that we have to watch out for.
Such
American
as?
American ginseng is one of them.
Oh, really?
Yes, because people get money for it, so they'll go and they'll harvest it, and you have to leave something so it can come
Mm.
back. You can't take it all. But yeah, that and the white sage.
Oh, really? I love those products. I
Well,
I burn sage all the time.
I do too, but it's just a matter of being mindful.
Mhm,
I mean, there's other things you can burn. I also burn resins.
mhm,
So with burning the resins, of course, resin is the sap
mhm,
from the trees. And even
mhm,
there, you have to be careful because there's unethical practices of,
mhm.
like with the Palo Santo, if you're familiar with
Yes.
Palo Santo, there are Palo Santo is derived from dead trees, and then the wood is taken from the dead tree. Well, there are people who are cutting down the tree, letting it die, and then taking the wood because they can sell it. So these are certain things that we just need to be aware of and be very aware
Mhm,
of the companies that we're doing business with. To
mhm.
look at their
And
practices, see what they're doing.
yeah. And by the way, Joyce has a free gift. I'm going to put it up on the screen and so you can see it. And then it's also in the link in the description so you can start getting an idea and a checklist of alternative, healthier product options. So I just wanted to make everybody aware of that. Um, yeah, in the email that or the article that I read yesterday, it said that um, what they were noticing was eating one wild fish, like caught in our natural streams and lakes here in the US, was the equivalent of drinking polluted, bad, toxic water for 1 month. Like eating one fish equaled pollution, toxins, and bad water for 1 month.
Right.
And that it's because of so many of those toxic forever chemicals that were leaching into the soil, into the water, into the air. And so, yeah, when you can have um, start being more mindful, like with a checklist, for example, and seeing where you can swap out for good stuff, by all means, empower yourself to do so. So, tell us more about your products that you make and sell and offer.
Yes, thank you. I have a variety of products. The first one that I started out with was a salve. I was learning how to make a salve, and it was just supposed to be a comfrey salve. And I decided to add marshmallow root to it and also plantain, not the banana shaped thing, but it's actually a low growing weed that is commonly grown by water spigots. So I decided that I was going to put those three together to see what happened. And it turned out that people loved it. It works great on bug bites and
Mhm.
rashes. It's just like just about any skin condition that you can think of. The only thing it cannot be used on is any kind of open wound that you might have, because comfrey regenerates skin cells very quickly, and you could actually seal the infection inside the skin.
Mm.
So you don't want to,
Okay.
yeah. So
And by the way, have you been trained in this? Like, have you done any type of certification or schooling, or are you mostly self-taught?
in the beginning, I was basically self-taught. But then I started getting comments from friends how great my skin looked, and they wanted to know what I was doing. And of course, it was all my products. And so I handed them some of them, and they were using them, and they liked them, and they said, you should start selling these. Well, I
Mhm.
wanted to make sure that my products were safe for the public. It was fine for me to use them, but I
Mhm.
wanted to make sure they were safe for the public. So in 2016, I did take a course to specifically formulate products using organic plant-based ingredients. and I, in 2017, was certified. I had to take a 2-part test. So the first part was was a written test, and in the second part, I had to formulate a whole skincare regimen for 3 fictitious clients, which was actually a lot of fun. But see, and that's the thing I discovered there too, was that you need to be careful with people who are creating home products, because there are certain things that if you have any kind of water in their product, you need to have a preservative. If you're just learning stuff from online or books, they'll tell you that vitamin E is a natural preservative. It is not. It needs to be put in oil-based products. Like I have a serum that's made with 2 different oils. It needs to be put into there because it prevents the oils from oxidizing, but it is not a preservative. So the preservative that I use is called lucidal liquid, and it's really cool because even though it has a name that people might raise an eyebrow to, it's actually derived from a compound that's found in kimchi. If you don't know what kimchi is, it's a fermentation. I believe it's the Chinese. Yeah. So there's a compound in there that lucidal liquid is derived from. So that's what I use for my preservative. But if you have any kind of water, aloe vera, any hydrosol, anything that is water-based, you need to have a preservative or it will grow mold. An interesting thing that I learned too, taking that course, was mold is not just like black. It could be gray. It could be pink.
Yeah.
There's pink mold. Who would have thought?
I've seen it. There was an apartment complex that I lived in near the ocean, and it was really close to the water, and it was a highly coveted building because it was near the water, but the building had freaking mold in it, and I kept getting all these bronchial infections over and over again. And then I moved out because the landlord wouldn't fix it. But that was 15 years ago. Maybe people are more educated on mold now, but I've always had a radar for it.
Yeah, my husband does too. He's highly allergic to it. And we live in Louisiana, and I always joke around saying that mold down here gets moldy. That's how bad it is. The mold molds and the rust gets rusty.
Okay. Yeah. Well, give us a little insight about what's in your checklist so that people can know why it would be important to pick it up.
Okay, one of the things that's in there is that not only are we dealing with toxins outside of the home, inside of our home we deal with a lot of toxins too that are in rugs, in our furniture, in our clothing. Like formaldehyde is like in everything. It's used as a fire retardant, but it is toxic. So the good thing about this is, like, when I talk to people about all this, they kind of get overwhelmed and like, oh, what am I supposed to do? Well, there's these easy things to do. There are various plants, like the spider plant, aloe vera.
Aloe vera in my garden. I have a whole organic garden, and
you need to bring it inside. Bring the aloe vera inside. Also the snake plant. And the interesting, and I list the plants that will actually help to clean your air on that checklist. The interesting thing about the snake plant and the aloe vera is that the majority of plants, once nighttime comes, they don't give off oxygen anymore. They give off the carbon dioxide. Is that right? That's what we breathe out, right? Okay. I get the monoxide and dioxide confused. But the aloe vera and the snake plant both continuously give off the oxygen 24/7. So a snake plant's really good, like to keep in your bedroom, or the aloe vera plant. And the interesting thing about the snake plant is that if for some reason we lost the oxygen on the planet, if everybody had a snake plant that was waist high, they could live off that plant.
Wow.
Cool, huh?
Yeah, I love that little fun bit of trivia.
Some other things that are in there is like tending to the gut microbiome, which is 80% of our immune system. So there are suggestions for that. There are also other modalities that people could choose from, such as, learning about a crystal, like one crystal that they might use for a particular issue, or an essential oil, or herb. Other things like, we have to make sure our vibrational frequency is kept high. So for that, I mentioned things like meditation, qigong, yoga. So it's just little simple things. I think probably the only thing that would cost you in that checklist would be like the plants, the supplements too, because I also mentioned supplements. I encourage them to go, when they go shopping, to purchase one organic item. So it's just little things that, can lead to long-term things.
Gotcha. All right. Well, thank you so much for being on the show today. And we will, please go and check out this link that's on the screen as well as in the description, and go get some of these things that are listed and just add more healthy products that are going to be healthy for you. And your energy, your sleep, your clarity is going to improve the more you incorporate these into your life. So thank you again, Joyce. Have a beautiful rest of the day. Much love and blessings to all. See you on the next show.
Thank you, Tiffany.
You're welcome.